Imagine digging up an ancient skeleton, right? You're carefully brushing away the dirt, and you find that the front half belongs to a lion, but the back half belongs to, like, a bear.
Right, yeah, nature just simply doesn't operate like that.
No, you don't get to take the genetic instructions for one highly specialized apex predator, tape them to the blueprint of a completely different animal, and just expect a functional living creature.
Exactly. I mean, it violates all the basic principles of biomechanics and evolutionary lineage. Traits adapt over millions of years to solve very specific environmental problems.
Yeah.
An animal's anatomy operates as an integrated system. It's not just a mix and match bin of spare parts you can pull from.
But in May of 2026, scientists working in Argentina announced that they had found exactly that.
Oh, it's wild.
A 155-million-year-old dinosaur that is quite literally a biological impossibility. It's a chimera of two completely distinct species that are just mashed into a single spine.
And it is a discovery that fundamentally challenges how we model the migration and evolution of the largest animals to ever walk the earth.
And that is our mission for you today. In this deep dive, we were pulling from a really fascinating piece of research published in the journal PeerJ, alongside some fantastic reporting by Technoscience.
Which is a great read, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we are going to explore the unearthing of this bizarre new giant, break down the actual mechanics of its mind-bending anatomy, and understand how it exposes a massive blind spot in our maps of the ancient world.
Because, when the physical evidence directly contradicts the established models, well, it's the models that have to change.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get to the biomechanical puzzle that has everyone so completely baffled, we need to talk about the sheer physical reality of pulling something like this out of the ground.
Right.
Because this wasn't discovered by a team of academics running ground-penetrating radar across some targeted grid.
No, not at all.
It was found by a local shepherd named Dionidei, who was literally just out walking his land in Patagonia, Argentina.
Which is just a beautiful reminder of the role taphonomy and simple erosion play in paleontology.
Taphonomy being...
Right. Taphonomy is the study of how organisms decay and become fossilized. So for 155 million years, this animal was just locked in the earth.
Wow.
But tectonic uplift pushes the rock layers up, and wind and rain shave off, millimeters of stone every century. And eventually, a single fragment of bone breaches the surface right as someone happens to walk by.
And when the scientific teams finally excavated the site, they realized Dionidei hadn't just found a tiny fragment. They recovered over 30 vertebrae, ribs, and a significant portion of the pelvis.
A massive haul.
Yeah. And they ended up naming it Bicharracosaurus dionidei. Dionidei honors the shepherd, obviously, and Bicharraco is a colloquial Spanish term that just translates to, well, big animal.
Which is an incredibly fitting name. I mean, based on the skeletal proportions, particularly the dimensions of the femur and the pelvic girdle, we are looking at a sauropod that measured roughly 20 meters from snout to tail.
Now, in the grand scheme of sauropods, the classic four-legged long-necked giants, 20 meters isn't breaking any world records.
Right, no.
Like, animals like Argentinosaurus could push, 35 meters?
Yeah, easily pushing 35.
But still, 20 meters is the length of a bowling lane walking around on four legs.
Exactly. And more importantly for the science, the sheer volume of material recovered those 30-plus vertebrae that tells us a lot about the animal's life and death.
How so?
Well, you don't get that much of an articulated skeleton unless the animal was buried very rapidly after death.
Oh, like a flash flood or something.
Exactly. A flash flood or a riverbank collapse, something that protects it from scavengers and the weather. And the bone density also confirms this was a fully mature adult in prime health.
So it wasn't just some weird, sickly kid.
No, meaning its bizarre anatomy wasn't the result of some juvenile growth defect or a disease. It was built this way on purpose.
The source materials actually include a full reconstruction of what it looked like alive. The artist gave it this distinct brown and tan dappled skin pattern.
I love that rendering.
It really helps you visualize this massive living creature moving through the late Jurassic forests, stripping vegetation. But honestly, the image that really stuck with me is from inside the lab at the Egidio Furiglio Paleontological Museum in Trelew, where they're actually prepping the bones.
Oh, yeah. That image captures the grueling reality of what it takes to actually extract data from a fossil.
The photo shows paleontologist Amalia Villafana. She's wearing these heavy industrial earmuffs, a respirator mask, and she's hunched over this massive, jagged block of rock.
Right.
And she is using a pneumatic tool, which is essentially a miniature high-frequency jackhammer to expose just one of the vertebrae.
What she is doing there is incredibly high stakes. The rock surrounding the fossil, what we call the matrix, is often just as hard as the fossilized bone itself.
Which sounds like a nightmare to deal with.
It is. The pneumatic air scribe she is using vibrates thousands of times per minute. The goal is to let the vibration shatter the surrounding sedimentary rock. But if she applies pressure at the wrong angle, or, misjudges the density of the matrix, the vibration will shatter the 155-million-year-old bone instead.
Oh, wow. Which means she is spending months, maybe even years, just carving away stone millimeter by millimeter.
Absolutely.
And thank goodness she was that careful, because when the matrix was finally cleared away from that spine, the team realized the bones they were looking at simply should not exist in the same animal. Here's where it gets really interesting.
What's fascinating here is that the spine displays a severe architectural contradiction.
Yeah.
A dinosaur's vertebrae aren't just like solid blocks of bone. They are incredibly complex structures with struts, arches, and hollows that dictate exactly how the animal's muscles and ligaments function.
Right, and in the case of Bicharracosaurus, the paleontologists found that some of the vertebrae look virtually identical to those of a Giraffatian.
Yes.
Now, Giraffatian is a highly specialized brachiosaurid from Africa. But then other vertebrae on that very same spine perfectly mimic the structure of a diplodocus.
Which is a completely different family of sauropods known almost exclusively from North America.
Right.
To understand why this is physically jarring, you really have to look at the biomechanics. Brachiosaurids, like Giraffatian, are built fundamentally like construction cranes.
Okay.
Their evolutionary niche was reaching high into the tree canopy. So to support a vertical neck, their vertebrae feature massive single neural spines.
Dorsal spines,
The bony projections sticking up from the back, and those are designed to anchor enormous muscles. Furthermore, their bones are heavily pneumatized, meaning they are full of deep air sacs to lighten the vertical load.
Okay, so that's the crane. What about the diplodocus side?
Diplodocids operate on an entirely different engineering principle. They are built like suspension bridges.
Oh, okay.
Their posture was much more horizontal, grazing low to the ground, with an incredibly long tail acting as a counterbalance.
Right.
And to support that horizontal suspension, their vertebrae have bifurcated neural spines.
Meaning the bone splits into a V or a U shape at the top.
Exactly. That split creates a trough running down the animal's back, which cradles a massive cable-like nuchal ligament. It's a passive support system holding the head and tail level without requiring constant muscle exertion.
Okay, this is where I need to jump in and play skeptic.
Go for it.
Because if a lab uncovers a pile of rocks and they find construction crane parts mixed with suspension bridge parts, my first instinct isn't to say, wow, an incredible hybrid machine.
Right.
My instinct is to say, two different machines crashed into each other here. How do we know this isn't just a bone bed where a brachiosaur and a diplodocid died in the same river, and the river currents just jumbled their skeletons together over time?
That is the exact question a peer reviewer would ask, and it all comes down to articulation.
Articulation.
Yes. If it were a bone bed mix-up, you would find the bones scattered or layered haphazardly. But these vertebrae were found in anatomical sequence. They were articulated, meaning they were still physically locked together in the exact order they existed in the living animal.
Okay, that's pretty definitive.
And furthermore, the researchers identified transitional vertebrae.
Transitional, meaning bones that are like halfway between the two designs.
Yes, exactly. There are specific vertebrae in the sequence where you can literally see the architecture morphing from the single pneumatized pillar of a brachiosaur into the bifurcated V-shaped suspension bridge of a diplodocid.
Oh.
It proves definitively that this is a single cohesive organism.
I was trying to come up with a modern analogy for this, and it's like taking a heavy-duty pickup truck designed to carry massive vertical weight in its bed,
Oh, right. Yeah.
and trying to install the delicate aerodynamic double wishbone suspension of a Formula One race car on the rear axles.
That's a great comparison.
It's an engineering contradiction. The pickup truck uses rigid leaf springs for a reason. If you put F1 suspension on a truck, the moment you load the bed, the suspension snaps.
How does Bicharracosaurus not simply collapse under the stress of its own mismatched biomechanics?
Well, that is precisely what the paleontologists are trying to model right now.
Yeah. The existence of those transitional vertebrae suggests the animal evolved a unique soft tissue system, specialized muscles and ligaments, to bridge the gap between these two highly divergent architectures. it compromised to survive.
But the biomechanics is only half the mystery here.
Oh, totally.
The geography is what really breaks the models.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Choaphatid traits are African and Diplodocus traits are North American, but Dionide the shepherd didn't find this fossil in Africa or North America. He found it in Argentina.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to discard our modern map of the globe.
Okay, let's do it.
155 million years ago, during the late Jurassic, the Earth's land masses were configured completely differently. The southern continents, South America, Africa, Antarctica, Australia, and India were all fused together into the supercontinent of Gondwana.
Right, Gondwana.
And North America and Eurasia formed a northern supercontinent called Laurasia.
So, because South America and Africa were physically connected as Gondwana, it makes sense that you might see some overlap in the species. They could just walk from one to the other, right?
You would think so, but the prevailing paleoclimate models suggested otherwise. Just because land is connected doesn't mean animals can cross it.
Why not?
Because the center of Gondwana was dominated by vast, hyper-arid mega-deserts, and the equator itself was believed to act as a thermal barrier.
Like, just too hot to cross.
Exactly. A zone so incredibly hot and dry that large herbivores couldn't possibly find enough vegetation to survive a migration between the northern and southern hemispheres.
Meaning the models assumed the dinosaurs in the north were permanently genetically isolated from the dinosaurs in the south.
Precisely. And this assumption was backed up by a massive sampling bias in the fossil record.
A sampling bias.
Yes. When you look at the textbooks detailing late Jurassic sauropods, almost all the data comes from two specific places. The Morrison Formation in the United States, which gave us Diplodocus, and the Tendaguru Formation in Tanzania, which gave us Giraffatitan.
Wait, why only those two? Were there just more dinosaurs there?
Not necessarily. It's a mix of geology and history. The Morrison and Tendaguru formations happen to have large expanses of Jurassic rock exposed right at the surface, which makes them really easy to excavate.
Ah, convenience.
Right. And they were also the focus of massive, heavily funded expeditions in the early 20th century. Meanwhile, the Jurassic rocks in South America are largely buried, inaccessible, or simply haven't received the same level of systematic exploration.
So scientists looked at the massive trove of fossils from North America, looked at the fossils from Tanzania, saw a blank space over South America, and essentially said, well, because of the deserts, nothing interesting was happening down there anyway.
Exactly. They mistook an absence of evidence for evidence of absence. They assumed the southern hemisphere lacked the diverse evolutionary lineages seen in the north. But Bicharracosaurus proves that assumption completely wrong.
Because it's proof they were there.
This is the very first Jurassic brachiosaur ever discovered in South America.
And because it exhibits traits from both North American diplodocids and African brachiosaurids, it proves the isolation model is just a myth.
It shatters the isolation model. An animal couldn't evolve this specific combination of traits unless its ancestors were actively migrating and intermingling across those supposedly impassable barriers.
So how did they cross the deserts?
Well, it suggests that either the deserts of Gondwana were cut by seasonal green corridors, perhaps driven by massive monsoon systems that allowed temporary migration routes,
Oh, that makes sense.
or these animals were physiologically far more adaptable to arid environments than we ever gave them credit for.
So what does this all mean? If we step out of the lab in Trey-Lu and look at the whole picture,
Yeah, let's zoom out.
our understanding of dinosaur evolution was basically drawn from a skewed map. Because we only looked heavily at North America and Africa, we assumed South America was a biological dead zone during the late Jurassic, cut off by deserts. Then a shepherd in Argentina stumbles across a single 20-meter giant, and when paleontologists painstakingly chip away the stone, they find an impossible creature. An animal with the vertical crane architecture of an African brachiosaur fused to the horizontal suspension bridge architecture of a North American diplodocid.
It's incredible.
It proves that the ancient supercontinents were not isolated pockets of evolution, but vast interconnected ecosystems where completely different lineages were mixing, mating, and sharing genetic traits millions of years earlier than we thought.
It highlights how delicate our understanding of deep time truly is. I mean, entire scientific paradigms are built on the fossils we happen to find, which represent a microscopic fraction of the animals that actually live.
Yeah, Just the lucky ones that got buried right.
Exactly. And this raises an important question for you to consider. If an animal as massive as Bicharracosaurus, a 20-meter evolutionary chimera, could live, thrive, and then completely evade detection until a modern shepherd happened to look down at the exact right rock, what other massive rule-breaking biological secrets are sleeping right beneath our feet, just waiting for the Earth to shift?
It makes you wonder what else we've gotten completely wrong just because we haven't dug in the right place yet. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep your eyes on the ground, stay curious, and maybe you'll be the one to find the next piece of the puzzle.